good morning. My name is Nick, and I'm here from CC Group. I just want to start off by saying that I'm really happy to be here today. I'm excited to be working in an industry like this, as well as my colleagues. And we're just really excited to be sharing with you our strategic recommendation for how we can bring Garmin Limited to be a successful company, to stay successful in the long term, and deal with some changing dynamics with some industries that you do business within, and some segments that are having some problems. We'll walk through some analysis, go through a recommendation, and implementation of how we can get these ideas off the ground and actually successful for your company. These are my colleagues, Marita and Dan. So before we get started, I'd like to highlight the current strategy that we identified for your company, given some information that you provided us. We think as CC Group that is very essential for consultants to work on and keep in mind the context of the strategy of the firm to make sure that the analysis and subsequent recommendation and implementation follow in line with the context and the strategy that we've identified. And that being the differentiation. So we really think that Garmin, you guys started a revolution in the GPS industry, brought some good wearable, high-tech products to a variety of commercial and consumer segments. And we think the differentiation is key to the strategy of your business, and will be key to the strategy of your business in the long term as well. We also think that that differentiation stems from the technological advancements that you're able to provide through the manufacturing and design, really design of your company's products, I should say. And then also the post-purchase service that you're able to provide from a very experienced sales team that can really work with the customers after they purchase these products. And then, of course, the variety of segments. So these are the variety of the 5 segments that you compete in, and there's obviously a variety of challenges and successes in these various industries. We'll talk about at length a few particular segments that we think are dealing with some big changes due to technological change, as well identifying ways that we can go through strategically changing those challenges into opportunities to really get better in the long term.
All right, so to begin, I'm going to take you through the problems that we have identified. So the first being the need to navigate through an intensely competitive fitness market. So we have identified that the fitness market wearable section is becoming quite profitable, and we'd like to navigate through this market. The next being how to deal with the declining global GPS market. So there are multiple other platforms that are beginning to be used, and we want to determine the best way for you to work through this. So what we recommend is, to begin, is the divestment from the automobile industry. The next being the outsourcing of aviation and the marine industry, and the next being to establish a partnership for fitness segment expansion. So an analysis. Where and how do you compete in the industries that you are working in? So you did ask us to provide the supply chain that you currently work in, and so I'm going to walk you through this. So right now you're working in a couple different areas. You work in the design, the manufacturing, the sales, and your post-purchase services. So in the design section, you are working in Kansas, you are in the United States, and you work, in the United States designing and manufacturing in that sense. And with your manufacturing, you're working in both America and in Taiwan. So you have 3 factories in Taiwan and 2 in the United States. Your suppliers are global, you're working with multiple suppliers, and your average utilization is 65%. So again, to reiterate there, the design and the manufacturing is happening out of the United States as well as in the United States, but you own all of these manufacturing facilities. Finally, in terms of sales, you work with the wholesalers and distributors as well as direct buyers, and you are selling in 100 countries. And finally, the post-purchase services, you do have a strong focus there, but you're working to improve this. So again, consistent with your strategy, design and post-purchase services are aspects that are core to your business. This is really important to you, and this is where you focus and where your focuses lie.
So now that Marita's taking you through more of an organizational analysis, I'm going to take you through an analysis that we've conducted more on the products in all the segments that you offer. So what's unique to your company is that you operate in many of the different segments, such as outdoor aviation, marine, fitness, and others. And that's unique to your company, as most operate only in fitness or in GPS services for decrease in operating margin. So the 22% increase in revenue is definitely significant because that shows where the industry is changing. And if you compare that to the automobile, which you are mostly focusing a lot of your sales on right now, it's a 14% decrease in revenue. So that's definitely where the changing of focus is, what we think should be for your company in the future. So, with a fitness market analysis, the customers, there's an increasingly growing customer base, and we see that it's very broad because there's so many different segments that you can approach in this. Because there's people that are the everyday, the average Joe, who's wanting to make sure they stay up to date with their fitness, and they make sure that they're getting the amount of steps in, they hit their daily goals. There's also the avid fitness advocates who want to work out constantly and like to stay above a certain limit of their calories and make sure they're hitting a certain amount of steps per day. But there's also the other side of that, the people who are trying to get more in shape, potentially they're overweight, and they're trying to take steps to improve their fitness for a variety of different reasons. So with that said, broad range of customers to work with in that segment. With competition, there's a lot of smartphones, apps that are free, and that's basically your biggest competition right now. Because if you're selling GPS services that someone can get on their phone, there's very little value add for how expensive these products really are. Competition is really fierce in this industry, especially with Apple and Fitbit really taking advantage of these new fitness wearable technologies. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing that primarily moving forward. Key takeaway here, it's important to differentiate your products because your company has been very strong in the past and you have seriously changed this industry. But as the industry is changing again with the adoption of new free apps that kind of starting to replace your automobile services for GPS, for example, we want to see how you can change your strategy while remaining differentiated and focusing on that.
So in terms of the automobile market analysis, the customers that we've identified are just the general consumer. So it's anybody with a vehicle who is needing a GPS system for their car. The number of customers that you have currently are decreasing just because of what Dan has pointed out here is that there is an increase in other options. So the competition being, again, the smartphones and the car manufacturers. And with technical innovation that is replacing the GPS services that you provide, there is a decline in profitability in this segment. So the key takeaway just being that there's a need to change the position in the there's a need to change the position that you currently hold in this segment for Garmin. So I'm going to take you through the recommendation here. So we have outlined 3 steps in our recommendation to begin to change the long-term growth for Garmin. So first being a divestment from the automobile segment. So working to cut out the automobile segment that you have going. The next being the outsource of manufacturing of the aviation and marine. So trying to move those services that you are creating in the United States offshore and creating them elsewhere. And finally, partnerships. So working with companies to try to promote this wearable fitness tracker. So the divestment from the automobile segment. So the reasoning behind why we want to do this. So this is contingent obviously with our analysis, the fact that there is a decrease in this segment and that you are starting to lose profitability in this area. So just working to kind of navigate through this issue. The value proposition is that it creates positive positioning for the firm in the future. So just being able to navigate through these issues, try to increase profits, and stray away from the areas where you are beginning to decrease in your business. And the result will be the preparation for the short-term decline in growth in the automobile GPS market. So as we have talked about, this is already an issue. There is an issue with GPS becoming more prevalent in vehicles and in smartphones, so just trying to deal with this issue and prepare for the long-term end of the industry life cycle. So while it is decreasing, we see that there will be an end to the GPS system, the portable GPS system in vehicles, so trying to understand how you can prepare for this in the long term.
So to walk through some implementation items here, like Marina was mentioning, next like to provide some ample notice. So once you talk with the factory directors and they get on board with the government's head office decision, we recommend taking a lot of notice for the factory workers in Taiwan. Again, divestment and pulling back from certain segments is always a touchy subject in business. And we do think if you can provide ample notice, and we'll touch on some support, abilities to support them later on, we think that this will help the factory workers make sure that they're understood that it's obviously not their fault, it's just the way the industry is going. The fact that the automobile industry is no longer as enticing or exciting for your business segments. And we do think that this will be a key factor in the relationship with the factory workers in Taiwan working on in the automobile segment. And then the next step, again, that sensitive topic is letting go of the factory workers in Taiwan. We do have an allocation of about $1.36 million for severance packages, and Dan can walk through later how we got to that breakdown. But we do also have noted here that we would like that severance package to be split up unevenly across factory workers and senior management and factory directors at the automobile factory. Next, again, consistent with the support for the factory workers, is to provide some support throughout the process of letting go of these employees. So that would include professional assistance with resumes or reference letters, of course. They've been doing a great job for your company, so we do think this will be a great way to keep the relationship at least professional throughout this process. And then an optional note here to use the network of your company and your connections in Taiwan to perhaps help them get jobs in maybe other factories in the similar area. And again, we've noted this as optional, and it would be contingent on some evaluation throughout the first few processes to figure out if the employees are frustrated. Obviously, you're going to get frustrated, but if there's more you can do to make them happier and make sure that you're not burning any bridges throughout this process with the factory directors or the factory workers. And we've estimated a timeline of about 1.5 years for the divestment of the automobile segment.
So I'm going to walk you through some potential risks, because with any plan, there's definitely going to be some risks. So automobile, this segment of your company right now is the biggest revenue generator. And so we want to slowly divest, because although it is the biggest revenue generator for your company right now, we see that this industry is increasingly becoming less and less profitable for you. And so it's best to slowly ease yourself, to set yourself into a position in the future where, as this industry does change, you'll be prepared to be completely removed when the time is right to switch over your revenue streams to other portions of your business. Now I'm going to take you to our recommendation of outsourcing your manufacturing. So as I noted before, aviation and marine segments of your business have the lowest operating margins of your company. And so we think that it would be best for you to outsource these to Taiwan potentially, because you do have relationships there. And as the high labor costs for these segments, and such as being aviation parts and marine parts, it will be crucial for you to move these, because they are, as you noted to us, you're much less efficient working in America. Potentially outsourcing would help you utilize your resources best and potentially rebuild some of those burned bridges that could happen in that Taiwan divestment. So current relationships with Taiwan exist, and so obviously we think that would be the best way to go. And these have the lowest financial importance for your business because of those margins.
So again, just to walk through some action items for how you actually would bring the outsource of the manufacturing of aviation and marine from the ideation stage here to actually getting it off the ground. We've segmented, again, key action items for this process, and you can see the first two would be consistent with the first portion of the implementation, and that would be meeting with Cliff, which you're already aiming to do, and getting approval from the board of directors, so no need to speak about that again. But the biggest portion, obviously, within this implementation will be finding that outsource contract. Now, we do know this is going to be a really key partner in your supply chain for the long term, and we do think that there are a number of very important steps to go through before you can actually sign that contract. And I'll just highlight a couple before the signing of that contract. So first, we hope that you can establish cross-functional teams within your company to determine if anything absolutely cannot be outsourced. So obviously, you know your company best. If there's anything in particular considering supply relationships with the aviation and marine in the United States, we do think a internally is going to be a lot more important once it's done with internal workers, and that can be done by the cross-functional team as well. To make sure that all the ins and outs of the aviation and market segments that you do in the United States can be determined and can be setting up a context for that outsourcing. Next would be to utilize the current team in Taiwan. So Dan was touching on the fact that Taiwan already have business relationships in Taiwan, and you can utilize those relationships to source a few key options for an outsourced supplier. And after you meet with those two or three suppliers, you can go through some established KPIs that you have at your business to vet these suppliers and make sure that you're signing the right contract with the Taiwanese partner, and obviously the next would be to sign that contract. So we'll move on again. We can see that the similar steps are taking place for the factory workers in the United States, and that would be the allocation of a certain amount of funds for severance packages, and then again, the next two steps would be similar with the previous implementation. And we do foresee a timeline of around 2 years with some first key steps in the first 3 months. So to go over a couple of key risks, the first risk would be that partners don't offer your token quality. We can go into some mitigations about this in a little bit though. The last partnership, and we don't have an implementation for this, but we just want to talk about it at a very high level. We hope that you can target some partners to really increase the fitness segment of your business. We know that the fitness segment has some of the highest growth numbers for the various segments that you service, and we think a multinational company like Lululemon could be a great partner for that. We can talk about that in a bit later. But I just want to say thank you very much for the time here today. We're really excited to be able to work with you, and we'd like to open the floor up for some questions you may have.
Can you explain your rationale? You decided to outsource 2 of your divisions and discontinue the other one? Did you consider outsourcing the other one as well, or did you consider discontinuing?
Yeah, so the automobile